Well, we're not, whoa, loud. Yeah, well, at least it isn't completely full and I don't see anybody I don't know. So that's really sweet. Thank you. When you don't know some people, then you have to feel like you're a little more careful with what you say. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Pat. And yes, Mardia, all the nouns are going. So thank you very much. I have been offered money by Kathy Franzreb to make sure that we don't go past 12 o'clock. Anybody who is really needing to get down there by 12 o'clock, there's money you can put. There's a little place for Roger's share back there. So please generate quite a bit. And if I don't see anybody go back there, it's going to get long. But well, that's enough of that stuff. So this is the book that we're, this is the book of joy. And if you have not begun to read it because you didn't get it, I fortunately got a Linda's copy some time ago. I would say that it's, first of all, it's a good read and it's an easy read. I found it just really listening to a conversation between Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. It's just truly very interesting. And the young man who's doing the writing of it, he just fills in with all kinds of extra information that I think truly supports what the book is trying to do. And so when Linda asked me to speak, she, told me was the joy of faith. And I got excited about that. I just thought in my own mind, how does faith create joy? And one of the first things I thought of is the fact that anytime I've been able to create something, whether it's here at home or for someone else, a music stand or a cradle for, I think all the grandchildren got a cradle. Yeah. And then other people have gotten cradles from me, other things I've built. And how I feel in the process of doing that and that creative process. And when I'm done, it just, I can stand there and just look at it. I'm so happy. I don't know if I would express it as exuberant joy, but it is joy. So that's my first thought. And as you guys know, I love reading Charles Fillmore. So the next thing I did was I went downstairs, got the concordance, and started writing down where all this stuff that Charles would say about joy was. And I was surprised. First of all, I really didn't expect to find it. And then there was several, I think there were 8 or 10 references in his books. And I read all of them because I think, and I'm going to share 3 of them with you. And I printed them really big so I could read them, but I can't without my glasses. It's very sad. They're blurry at this distance. I can't quite make it out. But it's really fun to do this. I mean, it's really fun to get in there and read and study and look at all the things he has to say. And this first one is from his book on prosperity, and it's on page 158. And now I put on my glasses. And this is, you got to take this as in context that he's talking about prosperity. So God loveth a cheerful giver. The Greek word here translated as cheerful is hilarion, which means really is hilarious or joyful. I thought that was a kick. I just thought, how interesting. God loves a hilarious giver. That's great. Isn't that the most wonderful thing you ever heard? God loves a joyful giver, a hilarious giver. I thought that was really neat. And I was really taken by that, just that thought. When you think about just the things that everybody does here, whether it's Jeff with the music and the stuff running the equipment here, my wife making the, thank you, special. All the little things. How, how wonderful is that joy. And he goes on here, says, the gift may be measured in dollars and cents, but God looks not at such things. God looks on and loves the joy of the giver. That just says it right there. That whole idea that it isn't how much, it's how you do it and what your intent is. Is it given in joy? Is it done in joy? Do what you've been given to do in joy. It's truly a blessing to do those kinds of things. Then there's this part, that ties in from page 92. It says, the idea that comes to you must be used. If you're prompted to do something, spiritually prompted, Charles says, you should do that. Be alert. Do not, in doing whatever comes you to do, joyfully and with competence in the doing. So just the idea that we all have this choice every time we've asked to do something, whether it's speak or do the coordinator's position, it really doesn't matter how well we do it. It matters how much we enjoy doing it, how much we're giving from our hearts to begin with. So this, this idea of speaking in front of you guys, it's hard, but it is so much fun at one level. Because for me, I love reading and studying this stuff. I don't know if it's the teacher in me. Sometimes more I think about it, I think I might have been born a teacher. My little brother says I was. My mother is sure I was, because I taught my little brother some things he shouldn't know. But that's okay. So going on from that point of being joyful in your giving, with whatever it is that you're giving, he goes on to talk about it in more specific terms. He says, joy, spiritual joy, is our divine right. It buoys us up and urges us forward into accomplishment. Joy, spiritual joy, is ours by divine right. It is in our blood, in our brains, in our cells. That divine spirit within us is the spirit of joy. In the Radiant Rose Academy that Louise and I listened to, one of the things they say is that joy is the power in the universe. And if you think about it, as the universe is being created, every creative act is joy. For the women in here who've had babies, painful joy. But it is joyful. For those who've fathered children, there's nothing greater than 42 years ago, I held a little baby with her little nose punched up like this and her head pulled out as far as it could be, so narrow. My daughter's 42 years old today. And what a joy it was to be there in the operating room when she was born C-section, and her head was so long it looked like a spaghetti. And she was just this big worm of a child, She was like 22, 23 inches long and weighed barely 6 pounds. It was just, but what joy. It's just what joy that has in it for each person in the process. I hope she enjoyed being born. And this idea that joy urges us forward. I want to really make sure you get that in your mind. That when we're moving forward in things, whether it was when we're in college trying to get a degree, there was a reason for it. There was a joy in the process. Whether it's learning how to do whatever you've done in your lives. I know different people do different things, and it's really important that we've done those things joyfully and enjoy it. I think Michael's painting all the things he's painted in this city, the places that people have been. Dorothy's kids selling furniture to everybody in God's green earth. And if you don't believe it, you can watch a little TV and you can watch, what's your youngest one's name? Your youngest son's name that's got Myron jumping onto the beds yelling, "Get it out of here!" Joyfully. We all have that in our lives. All those things that really have brought us joy and how that joy has moved us forward in our lives. He goes on to say, then this is one of the more important things I want to read to you. It is impossible to found a lasting stronghold within on anything less than the understanding that God is a God of joy. It is impossible to create inside yourself with anything less than the understanding that God is the God of joy. That's profound. All of us have a spiritual practice. Being here is part of that spiritual practice. And all the other things that you do as your spiritual practice is founded, he says, should be founded on the fact that God is a God of joy. That's a really cool thing to think, because I know, I don't believe there's anybody in here right now that, Jeff maybe, started out in Unity. We found our way here. We grew into this knowledge that the divine was something of joy. It's really, really profound that you cannot build anything spiritually that's going to last on any other idea than God is the God of joy. It is through this realization, it is through this realization of this truth that we drink heartily of the wine of life. Often during serene, yes, sobering moments, the inner man, the inner woman is athrill with a newborn joy of anticipation. I'm sorry that your wife couldn't be here, Bob, because I picked this line just for her. Because sometimes we, because of the old language in the early part of this last century, we don't hear man and woman mentioned, but right here he did it. He said, sobering moments, the inner man, the inner woman is athrill with some newborn joy of anticipation. Again, affirming that whole idea that the divine is good, all good, present in everything, everywhere. It's all good, no matter what we see in the outer world, no matter what we believe is happening someplace else. In ourselves dwells this loving, joyful God that is helping us move forward in our lives in all spiritual matters. And it's just really powerful. Jesus, holy criminy, I am really fast. Price is going up. Does anybody know what the word dolorous means? Please raise your hand if you know what the word dolorous means. Oh, Dolores lived around the. Well, DeLorean. Nope, it's not. No, it's not. But it's a word that is going to be used in this next sentence I'm going to read. It means very sorrowful, sad, mournful, painful. So this is what Charles says in Genesis, the Mysteries of Genesis on page 175. Religion is not a dolorous thing that many have pictured it, much to its loss and to ours. Religion is not a painful, sorrowful, sad, painful, mournful thing. On the contrary, religion should make man joyful. God is not to be served in the spirit of bondage to a taskmaster, but in the spirit of happiness and joy. I think that's why we're here. I know it's why I'm here. When I first came to this church, I was dating Louise and she was coming, and I was literally going to Lutheran church at 10 or whatever and coming to Unity at 11 or whatever it was. And my middle child and I were sitting in front. They had moved the pews around and kind of making a U in the front. And then so they could almost come up and beside the pulpit and things. And we had that a new minister there from someplace. And we're sitting there and this 4-year-old kid looks at me and goes, Daddy, Daddy, why is that man yelling at us? That was the last time I went to that Lutheran church. Because out of the mouths of babes comes something. And then I promptly started coming to Unity, and mean people started singing songs about things and making me cry through the whole service. No, not mentioning any names, but that idea that this is a place where we see God, the divine, as good, joyful, wanting us to be hilarious at times. Sometimes we are. But that whole idea of not being a taskmaster, that we are here because we choose to be here. And it makes everything in our lives clearer when we understand that that is a choice. I still like calling them tenets. And I love the idea that there's choice in there. I create my life by what I choose. You could end it right there. You don't have to put all those other words in there. I create my life by what I choose. And if I choose to believe God is all good and present in everything, and that includes myself and all of you, we have a good place to start. We have a good place to hang our hats and to know that no matter what we experience on the outside, the inside is filled with the love of God. And then here's the great promise. Those who persistently exercise faith in God find there is generated in their mind a condition that gradually grows into a conviction of a permanent presence of divine substance within. And this gives rise to the most exquisite joy. When one persistently exercises faith, what we're doing today is an exercise of faith. Our book groups are exercises of faith. The music is an exercise of faith. The making the place run and having this happen and having the youth group start again, those are all exercises of faith. And in your personal prayer time and meditation time, those are acts of faith. And what he says is, those who persistently exercise their faith in God will generate in their mind a condition that gradually grows into a conviction. Faith goes from exercise, faith, and finally moves into a knowing, a conviction. No longer do you worry about if you're right or wrong like I do. Am I getting this right? Am I saying what needs to be said on a Sunday like this? Do I know that I am a divine being? I really want to. But it's in the persistence. A few years ago, I talked about the 3 Ps: procrastination, paralysis. Oh, I can't think of it. But what it means is that if you don't want to do something, you're afraid to do it, and you keep not thinking about doing it, eventually you get paralyzed and you can't do it. Where if you persist, you practice, you become perfect. And you can talk about basketball or football or anything else you want to talk about, but we're talking about our spiritual life. Persistent exercising of faith generates in the mind a condition that gradually grows into a conviction, the knowing that the words I've been reading you from Charles is the truth and is alive in each and every one of us every day. It's an evolution. Linda and our book group were speaking and talking about stuff last Tuesday, and we talked about the fact that even putting the tenets up and reading them every day or every Sunday wasn't always done in this church. It wasn't done over on University Avenue. But Eileen Kennedy went to some workshop someplace and came back and told the board, well, we should be doing this. And we started doing it. And what happens? What happens when we say God is all good, present in everything, everywhere, every Sunday? I'm sorry, I'm trying to stay in. Is present when we say that every Sunday. It starts like a what you call them, a music song, that an earwig that gets in your head, and a brainworm. Thank you. But that idea that if you say it over and over and over again, you start perceiving it differently. When you say the second one and you say, I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone else. It's much easier to, from my perspective, it's much easier to see it in you than it is to see it in myself. But that whole process, it's growing in us, it's evolving in us. As we persistently practice and hear those words, I create my life by what I choose to think, feel, and believe. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, I come in conscious contact with God and bring out the good in my life. The last one's really, 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 really important. I do my best by living the truth I know. Nobody has to believe a word I say. Nobody has to. Nobody has to take it on. But what you do believe, that's what you should act on. That's what you should persist in trying to know in your lives. The joy of God, the idea that that thing grows into a conviction that allows you to be in the world in your wholeness. I think about when the board asked me to put that frame on that piece of glass up there, and I didn't want to do it because it was going to be hard. And I thought of all the things that could be wrong, and it's heavy and you got to fix it so it doesn't fall apart, blah, 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 blah. But when I started actually doing the building, and I built jigs, and none of them worked until I used some finishing screws to put the corners together. And then I put little gussets of metal in there, some aluminum gussets that keep the thing from falling apart. And then I brought it to you guys and I put it up here and said, here it is. I can't do this myself. I can't do the rest of this myself. And who showed up? Bob showed up. KP showed up. Loris showed up. Kevin showed up. Who else showed up to help me do that? Mark did. All that brought us in, and I think it was a joyful experience getting that ready. And then a day after we got it all ready, it took Dave, Andrus, Mark, and I hoisted it up there. Mark and I were kind of doing this. I mean, Dave and I were due on the sides, and Mark was holding it up. But when we got it up there, everybody stood back and we're all pleased, I think. And then I looked at it and said, no, it's an inch and a half And somebody said, "Oh, Roger, it's okay." I said, "No, there are women in this church that will notice." But the idea is that, when we were doing it, weren't we happy? Weren't we enjoying ourselves? That act of faith, of joining in, doing what is ours to do, is part of the joy of this growth. And I love the word that he used. It becomes a conviction. It moves from that idea of faith into a conviction. I don't know about anybody else, but when you were in school and they were teaching you to read and they said all those words, man, I wasn't sure they were right. And then when I started teaching reading to little kids, and this kid, his nickname was Gooser, and he's reading with me and he's going, and it's the picture of a barn with a little horse. And all it says is, I can see a horse, or I can see a barn. I think it was, I can see a red barn. And he goes, I can see a red barn, and there's a bunch of people there, and they're going to have a party next week. They're going to have this. I looked at him, and I said, Gooser, use your finger. I can see there's not enough words here. This guy is a bad writer. And you got to realize he's a Native American boy. And during this time of year, when the snow comes down on the mountains, they get told all the stories. They're told all the stories. And all those words are describing things, and there weren't enough words. But when we went, you can do it. I can see a red. I don't know what that word is. What do you see in the picture, Gooser? He says, I see a horse. You say horse. Horse. What do you hear at the beginning of horse? An H. Is that an H? No. What is it? That's a B. What sound does it make? B. Read it again. I see a red barn. Good job, Gooser. He had to move from an idea in his head to the truth of what was written there. We all have to do that in our lives. We always have to be learning something that moves us into the truth of our lives. And hopefully those spiritual truths, that God is all good, present in everything, everywhere. And I am naturally good and you are naturally good because God's divinity is in us, is the motivating, joyful reason for being alive in this world, for coming to church in this building and being part of this congregation. It's a joy to be here. I can't tell you how much I love and respect all of you folks. It just truly is a joy to be here. That's all I'm going to say today, but let's take a few minutes and meditate on this idea that faith, if persistently practiced, becomes a conviction, and that ultimately leads us to the knowledge and into exquisite joy. So let's take a couple breaths together, if you would, please. In and out, and in and out. And one more time, in and out. And if you'd like to, you can place your hands over your heart. Jesus is calling. Know that you are divine children of God. created in the image and likeness of the divine. You are the peace, the joy, the strength, the understanding, the wisdom of God in this world. Let that light of joy expand in your chest. Golden, pink, whatever color you want it to be. Just let it glow throughout your body. Till it's coming out into this congregational room. Filling it with the light of the Christ from within us. And as it fills this room, this sanctuary, it overflows and fills this city block. The state, the country, this hemisphere. The entirety of the world. This is truly the truth of our being. We are that which we seek. Let our faith grow in us, joyfully grow in us, sharing that faith with all who come near us. Every life we touch, in every way we touch them, that they know they have been touched by the hand of God, the hand of joy. Amen. I think we're going to do our prayer for protection now. Again, this is an evolutionary part of our practice here, because the idea that we're surrounded by light, but the claiming of it as our own is something we've not done before. It's in the claiming in that book that we're reading. It's all about claiming the divinity within you. So let us go. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. Love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. We are one. Let's stand.